Okay. We'll get started here in just a sec. Just want to make sure that my sound is working, because it was showing a little bit of a problem, but we'll see how it goes. All right, let's get rid of that. And we'll make an adjustment to the screen. Because we're on a bit of a new setup today. So just wanted to make sure I get everything working before we go. There we go. Make sure everyone can see everything. So good morning. This is your May 28th Indigenous Focused Disaster and Emergency Management briefing for hazards, floods, social issues, organized crime, substance abuse, things that are going on or in communities, anything related to public safety. And I'm on location remotely today, as you can see. And if you want a copy of today's briefing, of course, you can always get it on app.hazardscape.com. You can go there right now. No credit card required, no payment required, because we have great sponsors that I will go to in a minute. But you can download this in a Word copy if you need it for your leadership or elected official. And if you want to brief the community on anything. And of course, these will be recorded and on our Facebook and YouTube. So today, just in general, we're tracking some new wildfires in BC that I'll show you. It's the anniversary for the Matthias Column Cree Nation and Pimicamac Cree Nation, where they were ordered to evacuate from a province-wide state of emergency last year. And then Red Earth Cree Nation reported 6 homes were damaged by flooding. So they're dealing with a bit of a recovery, which hopefully through that claim, they talked to Indigenous Services Canada about funding to augment their emergency management program through their recovery program. And that's always a great opportunity for nations to get additional money to restore homes and do some much needed upgrades. So I hope they take advantage of that. So those are kind of the highlighted things today. Taking a really quick look at weather alerts. I don't know if that map, there we go. We'll see if this map comes up today. Was having a little hard time getting it kick-started this morning. Some of the Canadian sites seemed a little bit slow. But we're going to do live weather alerts for Canada. Probably going to see some heat wave data come up. We'll throw on the Indigenous lands as well, so we can kind of correlate those to where reserves, agreed upon lands are, and other Inuit communities. That might take a little bit to load because it seems to be slowing down. So we'll go right into the wildfire. So the wildfire weather index has really escalated throughout the prairies over the last couple days. You can see here, BC in that central area, northern Alberta, southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and now Ontario, Northwest Territories, even down in southern Ontario. So big escalation through the prairie provinces. Ontario is starting to bolt up there as well, just with all the heat that's been going on the last couple days. And I expect we'll go over temperatures in a bit, but we'll get those. We'll see how the weather is forecasted. But if you take a look at the fire danger right now in terms of risk, that's a big escalation from where we started the week, which here's Monday, right? You can see Manitoba, Western Ontario, Northwest Territories. They were all in that kind of low, barely touching to moderate fire danger. But over this heat wave and last few days, the prairie provinces have really escalated, and that's only going to continue to happen as we progress with the weather. Luckily, we'll see in Saskatchewan where they've had a lot of that flooding, sort of where you can see the yellow, and then same with Ontario where the yellow and green are. They had quite a bit of precipitation and flooding last month and into early May. So it'll be interesting to see just how quickly that dries up. So for example, Manitoba, as much as I can go in Manitoba, you can just see that little bit of green, a spot of blue, the yellow there. That's all where a lot of that flood warning was. And so I'm sure that the grounds are a little bit more saturated, but given the temperatures that we're going to see, this is by 4 p.m. today, at least in those regions, 34 in Winnipeg, 34 in Dauphin, 32, even 34 up in the Pas. Those areas are going to continue to dry out. And then heading into tomorrow, we're going to hit 30 up in Thompson, 25 in Black Lake, 32 in Fort Mac. Even Fort Smith is going to hit 28. Alberta, seeing some high temperatures, 29. That'll persist in Edmonton. And then Eastern Ontario, 31. So that's going to continue. We'll see what Thursday at the height of the afternoon is. That weather is going to move up. 30 at Lynn Lake by Saturday. Heading into Sunday, it's still going to stay hot, 31. And then even in Monday. So that hot weather is going to persist through Western Ontario, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. So you can see here what that's going to mean for the fire danger and the fire weather index. It's just gonna become a bit of a tinderbox there in terms of the risk. Yeah, I don't know. This one's not going to work unless there may not be any special weather statements, but there should be for the heat events. But this one is. Let me try and reload it here over the next little minute. In terms of new fire starts, so quite a few down in southern Alberta. This one yesterday at 4 o'clock near, sort of almost near Waterton. That one's kind of been hanging on since the 12th. BC, we're starting to see some of those become now being held. That one up here is still persisting. It's at 10.7 thousand hectares. Saskatchewan's got a new start here just overnight. And then Manitoba, that one on the 26th. And then this one's a little lower, the 27th. That's not the same one that was happening out by Kenora. So few new starts over the last 24 hours as we persist with this heat. I'm going to turn off the ones that are under control just to give you a bit of a view of what's, out of control and what's being held. So again, not too bad considering the fire weather index, but the fire weather index is really extreme in kind of those non-forested grassland areas. As long like North Saskatchewan, North Manitoba, when you get more into the forest managed areas, that's where we're probably going to start to see more ignition as this weather continues along to heat up those regions. So it'll be interesting to watch for that. If we look at rain and thunder storms, not really anything of significance today. Tonight, I'd be a little concerned if these are producing lightning across Saskatchewan, then that's something that is potential there to ignite some of those grasslands. Same with Alberta. We are forecasted to get some rain and almost 10 to 15 mils on Saturday, probably through this system here. But I don't know. We'll see how that holds out in the forecast. It was supposed to be a little rainy today, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. The rain that we got yesterday was very light. There's just not enough. That rain is not getting to the forest floor, and it's not really doing much in the grasslands either to really cause any sort of precipitation that's going to hold at the surface level. And you usually need upwards at this point with the drought, like persistent 20 millimeters of rain for a day or two for that water to penetrate the forest canopy and get down to the ground. So I just don't think it's going to make too much of a difference getting into this week here. I'll pull up yeah, this one just doesn't like the load this morning. Let's take a quick look. Try that. Okay, that loads, but that's a local layer. Yeah, there's an arrow occurring for that one. There we go. At least we got the live weather updates here now. So you can see where those extreme weather alerts are for the prairies. Let's go here. Why is this? How do I get rid of that? It's not going to let me close it. Can I get rid of you? I don't know if I can get rid of this little slider, but anyway, yeah, those are the heat warnings for those areas. There we go. Temperatures reaching 29 combined with overnight lows near 16 next 3 to 5 days. Up here in Yellowknife, air quality warning probably from that fire. So they're going to start to see air quality issues. We could take a look at firesmoke.ca. Oops. Let's just see what it looks like. And it's like I always tell on reserve and off reserve communities, like even, yeah, so you can see there, that's where this smoke is coming from. It's actually coming from Saskatchewan, and it's moving sort of northwest right across those areas today. That's into tomorrow. What's going to look like. So it's probably also coming off of this start here. So just enough that it's triggering smoke warnings for those communities. Then over in Rankin region, we've got a freezing rain warning. So while we're in a heat wave down in the southern parts, they've got that going on. And then it looks like over on Cape OPEI, maybe high winds, 100 kilometers an hour. Prince Edward Island. So a few weather warnings today, other than the heat and that air quality warning, not too much of significance. But even with if there isn't a fire in your community and there is that smoke and that air quality, you still want to talk to Indigenous Services Canada through their EMAP program about making sure that if there is an air quality warning or a heat event, apply for response and recovery if you think it's going to impact your people and your community. And I want to make sure that I also recognize that, these daily lives and these daily briefings and the training that we offer for Indigenous communities across Canada, it's no cost through sponsorships. we're able to provide First Nation, Métis, and Inuit communities with these risk communications and updates, primarily from First Nations owned All About Abatement. They do hazardous materials assessments on reserve and off reserve, and they do asbestos, mold, lead abatement and remediation. Kyle at All About Abatement, I'm actually going to see him this morning. We're going to do a tour of his shop, which I'm going to record. And we're just going to have a talk about, the work that they're doing to make sure that mold, plastics, harmful materials on and off reserve are, assessed, recorded, cataloged, and then dealt with at the right time. And that could be following a evacuation from a disaster or an emergency like a fire, a flood, power outage, even a chemical spill. They can come in and take care of that. And thanks to them, they're sponsoring all of this. So First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities across the country can access risk information. And then I also want to recognize Canadian-owned Premier Fire and Flood Restoration. Darcy and his team do a lot of work through treaty lands, through Indigenous, non-Indigenous communities. They are highly focused on water damage and fire damage and smoke damage. They even do vandalism restoration, and they do diagnostic services, checking for moisture in homes, leak detections, they provide accelerating drying service. And they also have this unique 50-foot trailer with staged restoration equipment. So if small and remote communities need to deal with mold, they need to deal with water, they have a power outage or a pipe burst or even smoke fire damage, they can deploy their trailer to small and remote communities within a day or two of being notified. And so through Premier Fire and Flood, which is Canadian owned, they're not a restoration company out of the States, which there are many in Canada, and they just don't know how to work with the First Nations, Métis, Inuit communities like Premier does. So that's why we work with them, because they have that knowledge. And they're also partnered with First Nations owned All About Abatement. So I want to recognize them and thank them a lot for helping us deliver these situation briefs. And of course, I'll have to plug our new Indigenous certification training program. You can right now start taking our certification program, and you can get your certificate for emergency management at no cost because of the sponsorship. And you will get a digital badge. You will get a certificate that you can download. This is Canada's only Indigenous focused emergency management program that provides a credential through our emergency management system for First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities. And this is meant for local leaders, whether you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous. If you're working in a community, on a reserve, whatever it is, you can get that certificate, and that is made possible by the sponsorship through Kyle at All About Abatement and Darcy at Premier Fire and Flood Services. So reach out to us or reach out to them if you need any help in doing hazardous materials assessments. If you're looking at wanting to do restoration planning, memorandum of understanding for disaster recovery, they are the ones to call. So yeah, in terms of the fire risk right now, this is kind of where we stand with the fire weather index. It's going to be a continued hot week, heat wave across the country. And the whole thing here is if you're an individual or family member, just get a checklist going of what you would like to put in your grab and go bag in case you are evacuated. You don't need to necessarily start making the grab and go bag now, but it's always good to have that checklist, because If you are, rushed to evacuate in a frame of mind where you've got to rush quickly, you don't want to be thinking about what to pack during an evacuation. You want to have a checklist on your fridge somewhere by your door where you can just go and run off that list and grab everything that you want to evacuate with. So that's my recommendation, because people don't necessarily have the food and medication to store in a grab and go bag. If that's your situation, then just make the checklist as we head into this continued heat wave. Things that you can do in your community to support resilience: check in with your elders, check in with people that live alone. Make sure they've got water. Make sure that if your community is under a boil water advisory, prepare lots of water now. If you are thinking about what else you can do, keep your windows closed, put up some shades. That'll keep it cool in your home. Opening the windows is just going to kind of allow, if you're in an area like up in Fort Smith right now, it's only going to allow smoke to come in, other particulate from those fires. It's going to equalize the heat from the outside to your inside of your home. Try and keep your home cool by closing the windows and putting up some sort of shade in there. And in the evenings, if you do get a bit of a breeze coming through, open the windows a little bit then when it cools down and the sun goes behind the doors. Stay hydrated, drink lots of water. If you are in a community where there are significant number of people who are unhoused or don't have access to a home that's going to provide that cool in place shelter, then local emergency managers in that situation can start to think about a cooling center. But people aren't going to leave their homes and cabins and shelters necessarily to go stay in a cool gymnasium or community hall. They're going to try and stick it out at home. So do your best to educate about cool in place strategies, keeping hydrated, checking on people, and just making sure that people have access to whatever water source they can get to. Because again, you can just see that heat there cropping up. All right, that's it for tomorrow or today's brief. I'm going to head over to All About Abatement, so you'll see some media coming out on my walk around of their facility. We're going to talk hazardous materials assessment, restoration, things like that. If you do want to check them out, you can visit all-abatement.ca. They're First Nations owned. They do housing hazardous materials assessments. They do restoration following flood, fire, evacuation. And then Canadian-owned Premier Fire and Flood.com. You can contact Darcy or Riley there and get in contact with them as they start to unfold their reconciliation strategy to focus more on supporting Indigenous communities having healthy and safe homes following disasters and emergencies. Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. for our Friday, May 29th hazardous live stream for Indigenous communities. If you missed this, it is recorded on our YouTube and Facebook. You can tune in every day, or you can download the copy of our situational briefing report at app.hazardscape.com. It's no cost for Indigenous communities through our sponsorship. You'll get a daily situation report in the app, or if you want it emailed to you, just contact us at support@hazardscape.com, and we'll put you on the email list for this email. And it outlines all of the urgent, active risks and situations going on across First Nations, Metis and Inuit communities in Canada. We also do focus on substance abuse, health, suicide crisis, things like that. So see you all tomorrow. Have a good day. Know your hazardscape and stay prepared.